Top 16 celebs who left fame behind. What if everything we believe about fame is wrong? These celebrities had it all: money, recognition, global admiration. Yet they chose to walk away, not because they failed, but because they wanted something more meaningful. From Oscar winners to beloved child stars, their stories challenge the idea that success only exists under bright lights. Why would someone at the peak of their career step back from it all? And more importantly, would you do the same? Stay with us as we uncover the real reasons behind these shocking decisions. If you're fascinated by untold Hollywood stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts with American Icon Stories. Your voice matters here. Audrey Hepburn. Few stars embodied elegance quite like Audrey Hepburn. Yet her most powerful decision came when she quietly stepped away from the spotlight. Rising to global fame with Roman Holiday, 1953, which earned her an Academy Award for Best Actress, Hepburn quickly became one of Hollywood's most beloved icons. Films such as Breakfast at Tiffany's, 1961, and My Fair Lady, 1964, cemented her legacy, not just as an actress, but as a cultural symbol of grace and sophistication. However, by the late 1960s, as the film industry evolved, Hepburn began to shift her priorities. Following the birth of her second son in 1970, she deliberately reduced her acting commitments, choosing instead to focus on motherhood and a more private life. What makes her story especially compelling is not simply that she left fame, but what she chose to pursue instead. In the 1980s and early 1990s, Hepburn became a dedicated UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador. She traveled extensively to countries such as Ethiopia, Sudan, and Bangladesh, advocating for children affected by famine, war, and poverty. Her humanitarian work was not symbolic. It was hands-on, often in challenging conditions. In 1992, she was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, one of the United States' highest civilian honors, recognizing her extraordinary contributions beyond cinema. Hepburn's departure from Hollywood was not abrupt but intentional, a gradual redefinition of purpose. She once remarked that as one grows older, the desire to help others becomes as important as personal success. That philosophy shaped her final years. Rather than chasing roles, she invested her time in meaningful global impact. Audrey Hepburn's legacy, therefore, extends far beyond film reels. It lives on in the millions of lives she helped improve, proving that true greatness is not measured by fame, but by compassion. Cary Grant. Cary Grant's exit from Hollywood stands as one of the most deliberate and dignified retirements in film history. Born Archibald Alec Leach, he rose from humble beginnings in England to become one of the most iconic leading men of the 20th century. Throughout the 1930s to the 1950s, Grant starred in a remarkable string of classics, including Bringing Up Baby, 1938, His Girl Friday, 1940, and Alfred Hitchcock's North by Northwest, 1959. Known for his effortless charm, impeccable timing, and sophisticated screen presence, he redefined what it meant to be a Hollywood star. Yet, at the height of his enduring popularity, Grant made a decision that surprised many. In 1966, after completing Walk, Don't Run, he retired from acting at the age of 62. His reason was deeply personal: the birth of his daughter, Jennifer Grant. Unlike many actors who struggle to let go of the limelight, Grant chose fatherhood over fame without hesitation. He openly expressed that he had spent his entire life performing and now wanted to dedicate himself fully to being present as a parent. After leaving acting, Grant did not disappear entirely, but shifted into a quieter, more controlled lifestyle. He served on the boards of companies such as Fabergé and remained selectively engaged in public life, often giving talks and interviews about his career. However, he never returned to acting, a rarity in an industry where comebacks are common. Grant's departure reflects a profound understanding of personal fulfillment. He recognized that success is not solely defined by public admiration, but by private contentment. His films continue to captivate audiences decades later, yet perhaps his most admirable role was the one he chose off-screen, that of a devoted father who knew exactly when to step away. Frankie Muniz. At the peak of early 2000s television success, Frankie Muniz seemed destined for a lifelong career in Hollywood. Best known for his role as Malcolm in the hit sitcom Malcolm in the Middle, 2000 to 2006, Muniz became one of the most recognizable young actors of his generation. The show earned critical acclaim, including multiple Emmy Awards, and Muniz himself received a Golden Globe nomination. He transitioned smoothly into film with projects like Agent Cody Banks, 2003, and Big Fat Liar, 2002, reinforcing his status as a rising star. Yet, just as his career momentum was building, Muniz made a decision that defied expectations. He stepped away. Rather than continuing along the traditional path of fame, Muniz pursued a passion that had little to do with acting: professional racing. He competed in the Champ Car Atlantic Series and later participated in NASCAR events, demonstrating serious commitment rather than treating it as a hobby. This shift wasn't impulsive. It reflected a deeper desire for fulfillment beyond scripted roles. Over time, he also explored music, becoming a drummer and manager for the band Kingsfoil, further diversifying his interests. Muniz's life took additional turns as he entered business, co-owning a specialty shop in Arizona focused on olive oils and vinegars. While he occasionally returned to television, such as his appearance on Dancing with the Stars in 2017, his priorities remained firmly rooted outside Hollywood. He has spoken openly about wanting to live with intention, focusing on family, personal growth, and meaningful work. What sets Muniz apart is not just that he left fame, but that he redefined success on his own terms. In an industry where visibility often equals value, he chose a quieter path, one driven by passion rather than pressure. His journey reflects a broader truth. Stepping away doesn't mean stepping down. Sometimes it means stepping into a life that feels more authentic. Rick Moranis. Rick Moranis built a career on unforgettable comedic performances, yet his most defining role came when he chose to leave it all behind. Rising to prominence in the 1980s through Second City Television, SCTV, Moranis quickly became a standout talent. His transition to film brought iconic roles in Ghostbusters, 1984, Spaceballs, 1987, and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, 1989, where his distinctive humor and relatable characters resonated with audiences worldwide. By the early 1990s, he was firmly established as one of Hollywood's most dependable comedic actors. However, tragedy reshaped his path. In 1991, Moranis' wife, Ann Belsky, passed away from breast cancer, leaving him a single father to 2 young children. Faced with this life-altering reality, he gradually stepped away from acting, with his last major live-action role in 1997. Unlike many who announce retirement, Moranis simply chose to prioritize what mattered most: raising his family. What followed was not a complete disappearance, but a quiet shift. He continued to lend his voice to animated films, such as Disney's Brother Bear, 2003, allowing him to work without the demands of on-set production. Still, he largely remained out of the public eye, embracing a private life far removed from Hollywood's intensity. For decades, fans speculated about his return, and in recent years, Moranis has made selective appearances, including a widely noted commercial alongside Ryan Reynolds. Plans for a sequel to Honey, I Shrunk the Kids have also generated renewed interest, though his involvement remains measured. Moranis' story stands out because it wasn't driven by burnout or fading relevance. It was a conscious, deeply personal choice. He demonstrated that stepping away from success can be an act of strength, not loss. In doing so, he redefined legacy, proving that sometimes the most meaningful decisions happen off-screen. Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman's career is a masterclass in versatility, intensity, and quiet excellence. But perhaps his most striking move was how he chose to end it. Rising to prominence with The French Connection, 1971, which earned him an Academy Award for Best Actor, Hackman quickly became one of the most respected performers of his era. Over the next 3 decades, he delivered powerful roles in films like The Conversation, 1974, Superman, 1978, where he portrayed Lex Luthor, and Unforgiven, 1992, winning his second Oscar. Known for embodying complex, often morally ambiguous characters, Hackman built a reputation not on celebrity, but on craft. In 2004, after completing Welcome to Mooseport, Hackman quietly stepped away from acting at the age of 74. There was no dramatic farewell, just a firm decision. He later confirmed that he had no intention of returning, citing health concerns and a desire for a slower, more private life. Unlike many actors who linger in the spotlight, Hackman exited on his own terms, at a time when he was still highly regarded. Retirement did not mean inactivity. Hackman redirected his creative energy into writing, co-authoring several historical fiction novels, including Wake of the Perdido Star, 1999, and Escape from Andersonville, 2008. This transition revealed another dimension of his storytelling ability, one that required no cameras or public attention. What defines Hackman's departure is its clarity. He never chased fame, and he didn't cling to it either. He once expressed that his goal was simply to be a good actor, not a star. That philosophy guided both his rise and his exit. Today, his legacy remains firmly intact, not because he stayed visible, but because he left behind a body of work that continues to resonate, proving that sometimes knowing when to stop is just as powerful as knowing how to perform. Mara Wilson. Mara Wilson's journey through Hollywood is a rare example of someone who experienced early fame, then consciously chose a different path while still young. She rose to recognition in the 1990s as one of the most beloved child actors of her time, starring in Mrs. Doubtfire, 1993, alongside Robin Williams, and later in Matilda, 1996, where her performance as the intelligent and resilient young girl became iconic. At a time when child stardom often leads to long-term careers in entertainment, Wilson made a decision that set her apart. She walked away. By her early teens, Wilson began to feel disconnected from the industry. The pressures of auditions, public expectations, and the loss of creative control made acting less fulfilling. After appearing in Thomas and the Magic Railroad, 2000, she stepped back from on-camera roles entirely. Her departure wasn't due to a lack of opportunity, but a shift in personal priorities. She wanted to explore life beyond scripted characters and regain a sense of autonomy. In the years that followed, Wilson reinvented herself as a writer and storyteller. She authored the memoir, Where Am I Now? True Stories of Girlhood and Accidental Fame, 2016, offering an honest and reflective look at her experiences in Hollywood. She also contributed voice work to projects like BoJack Horseman, but on her own terms, free from the pressures that once defined her career. Wilson has been open about mental health, identity, and the complexities of growing up in the public eye. Her story resonates because it challenges the assumption that fame is always desirable or sustainable. Instead of chasing relevance, she chose authenticity. Her path illustrates that stepping away early can be an act of clarity, not loss. By leaving behind the expectations of child stardom, Mara Wilson found a voice that was entirely her own, proving that sometimes the most meaningful role is the one you create for yourself. Jack Gleason. Jack Gleason's rise to fame was swift and unforgettable, yet his decision to step away from acting was even more remarkable. Best known for portraying Joffrey Baratheon in HBO's Game of Thrones, 2011 to 2014, Gleason delivered one of the most convincingly despised characters in modern television. His performance earned widespread critical praise, with many considering it a defining role of the series. At a young age, he had already achieved a level of recognition that most actors spend decades pursuing. However, once his character's arc concluded, Gleason made a choice that surprised both fans and industry insiders. He walked away from mainstream acting. Unlike many who leave due to lack of opportunity, Gleason stepped back at the height of his success. His reasoning was refreshingly straightforward. Acting had stopped being enjoyable. Having worked in the field since childhood, he no longer found the same passion that once drove him. Instead, he shifted his focus toward academics, enrolling at Trinity College, Dublin, where he studied philosophy and theology, graduating in 2015. During this time, he distanced himself from celebrity culture, often expressing discomfort with the superficial aspects of fame. He once described it as an invisible contract that came with expectations he never consciously agreed to. Though he has since returned to acting in select theater and smaller screen projects, Gleason has remained intentional about his choices. He prioritizes balance, creative fulfillment, and personal well-being over widespread recognition. His journey highlights a rare perspective in the entertainment world, one where stepping away is not seen as failure, but as a conscious recalibration of purpose. Gleason's story stands out because it challenges the idea that fame must be permanent. He proved that it's possible to walk away, reassess, and return on your own terms, without losing authenticity along the way. Freddie Prinze Jr. Freddie Prinze Jr. became one of the defining faces of late 1990s and early 2000s teen cinema. Yet his career path took a deliberate turn away from the traditional spotlight. Rising to fame through films like She's All That, 1999, and I Know What You Did Last Summer, 1997, Prinze Jr. quickly established himself as a leading man with strong box office appeal. His roles in the live-action Scooby-Doo films further expanded his audience, making him a household name during that era. Despite his success, Prinze Jr. chose not to remain in the cycle of high-profile film roles. As the mid-2000s approached, he gradually stepped back from on-screen prominence, seeking more creative control and personal satisfaction. Rather than disappearing entirely, he transitioned into voice acting, lending his talents to projects such as Star Wars Rebels, where he voiced Kanan Jarrus, a role that earned him renewed respect within a different segment of the entertainment industry. Beyond acting, Prinze Jr. explored multiple creative avenues. He worked as a writer and producer for WWE, contributing to storylines and character development, which showcased his versatility behind the scenes. He also authored a cookbook, reflecting his passion for cooking, an interest far removed from Hollywood's typical career trajectory. What makes his story compelling is the intentional shift in priorities. Prinze Jr. has spoken about wanting to pursue work that feels meaningful rather than simply maintaining fame. He redefined success as creative fulfillment and balance rather than constant visibility. Today, he remains active, but on his own terms, selective, grounded, and focused. His journey illustrates that stepping away from the spotlight doesn't mean leaving the industry entirely. Instead, it can be about reshaping one's role within it, proving that longevity often comes from adaptability rather than constant exposure. Dylan Sprouse. Dylan Sprouse grew up in front of millions, yet his transition away from mainstream fame reveals a thoughtful and unconventional path. Alongside his twin brother Cole, he became widely known through Disney Channel's The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, 2005 to 2008, and its spin-off, turning the duo into household names during their teenage years. Earlier, he had already appeared in films like Big Daddy, 1999, sharing the screen with Adam Sandler. With such a strong foundation, continuing in Hollywood seemed inevitable, but Dylan chose a different direction. After the Disney era, instead of immediately pursuing more acting roles, he stepped back to focus on education. He enrolled at New York University's Gallatin School of Individualized Study, graduating in 2015 with a degree in video game design. This decision marked a clear break from the typical child star trajectory, signaling a desire to build an identity beyond acting. Dylan didn't abandon creativity. He redirected it. In 2018, he co-founded All Wise Meadery in Brooklyn, a craft beverage business that quickly gained attention for its unique products and independent spirit. His interest in brewing began during college, and he transformed it into a full-fledged entrepreneurial venture. While he has returned to acting in select independent films, his approach remains intentional and low profile. What defines Dylan Sprouse's journey is balance. He didn't reject fame outright, but refused to be defined by it. By prioritizing personal interests, education, and business, he demonstrated that success can take many forms beyond traditional stardom. His story reflects a broader shift among former child actors, one where stepping away is not about loss, but about gaining control over one's future. In choosing a quieter, self-directed path, Dylan proved that fulfillment often lies outside the spotlight. Daniel Day-Lewis. Daniel Day-Lewis is widely regarded as one of the greatest actors of his generation. Yet his relationship with fame has always been distant, almost reluctant. Known for his intense method acting and extraordinary commitment to roles, he built a career defined by quality rather than quantity. Over several decades, he delivered unforgettable performances in films such as My Left Foot, 1989, There Will Be Blood, 2007, and Lincoln, 2012, earning 3 Academy Awards for Best Actor, more than any other performer in that category. Despite his towering achievements, Day-Lewis repeatedly stepped away from acting throughout his career, often taking years between projects. These breaks were not strategic pauses, but reflections of his need for privacy and personal exploration. In 2017, after completing Phantom Thread, he made a definitive announcement. He was retiring from acting permanently. The decision surprised the film world, as he remained at the height of his craft. Unlike many actors who struggle to separate identity from profession, Day-Lewis embraced life beyond the screen. He has been known to spend time pursuing craftsmanship, including shoemaking, and living quietly away from public attention. His approach to fame has always been cautious, treating it as a byproduct rather than a goal. What makes his departure particularly compelling is its finality. There was no scandal, no decline, just a conscious decision to stop. He expressed a desire to explore life without the demands of performance, suggesting that even the most celebrated careers have a natural endpoint. Daniel Day-Lewis's legacy remains untouched by his absence. His body of work continues to influence actors and filmmakers worldwide. In stepping away completely, he reinforced a powerful idea. True mastery includes knowing when to walk away, leaving behind not just fame, but a standard few can match. Shirley Temple. Shirley Temple's story is one of the most remarkable transformations in entertainment history. A child superstar who didn't just leave fame, but successfully reinvented herself on an entirely different global stage. Rising to prominence during the Great Depression, Temple became a symbol of hope for millions. By the mid-1930s, she was one of the highest-paid actors in Hollywood, starring in over 40 films such as Bright Eyes, 1934, and Curly Top, 1935. Her charm, talent, and iconic image made her a cultural phenomenon at an age when most children are just starting school. Yet, unlike many child stars whose careers fade unpredictably, Temple made a conscious decision to step away. By the early 1950s, after her popularity declined as she matured, she retired from acting at just 22 years old. Instead of attempting to cling to her former fame, she chose to pursue a new direction, one that would ultimately define her legacy even more profoundly. Temple transitioned into public service, entering politics and diplomacy. She became actively involved in the Republican Party and, in 1969, was appointed as a U.S. delegate to the United Nations General Assembly. Her diplomatic career continued to expand, serving as U.S. ambassador to Ghana, 1974 to 1976, and later to Czechoslovakia, 1989 to 1992, where she witnessed the historic Velvet Revolution firsthand. These roles were not ceremonial. She earned respect for her dedication, intelligence, and effectiveness in international relations. In 1988, she was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, recognizing her contributions beyond entertainment. Shirley Temple's journey stands as a rare example of someone who not only walked away from early fame, but built an entirely new identity grounded in service and leadership. Her life proves that leaving the spotlight doesn't mean fading away. It can mean stepping into something far greater. Bridget Fonda. Bridget Fonda seemed destined for a lifelong career in Hollywood. Yet her decision to leave at the height of her success remains one of the industry's most intriguing departures. As part of the renowned Fonda acting dynasty, daughter of Peter Fonda and granddaughter of Henry Fonda, she carried a legacy that few could match. Throughout the late 1980s and 1990s, she built a strong reputation with performances in films such as Single White Female, 1992, Point of No Return, 1993, and Jackie Brown, 1997, working alongside some of the most respected directors and actors of her time. Unlike many who step away due to declining opportunities, Fonda exited Hollywood when she was still in demand. Her final major role came in 2002, after which she made the deliberate choice to leave acting entirely. In rare public comments, she expressed a preference for a more ordinary life, suggesting that the constant demands of filmmaking often left little room for personal freedom. Her departure coincided with significant life changes. In 2003, she married composer Danny Elfman, and soon after, she shifted her focus toward family life. That same year, she was involved in a serious car accident, resulting in a fractured vertebra, an event that may have reinforced her decision to prioritize health and stability over career ambitions. Since leaving the industry, Fonda has maintained an exceptionally private lifestyle, rarely appearing in public or media. Her absence is notable precisely because she chose it willingly, not out of necessity. In an industry that often encourages perpetual visibility, her decision stands out as a quiet but firm rejection of that expectation. Bridget Fonda's story highlights a different kind of success, one defined not by longevity in the spotlight, but by the freedom to walk away from it. Phoebe Cates. Phoebe Cates rose to prominence in the 1980s as one of Hollywood's most recognizable young actresses. Yet her decision to leave the industry reflects a deeply personal shift in priorities. She gained widespread attention with Fast Times at Ridgemont High, 1982, a film that became a cultural touchstone and later expanded her range with roles in Gremlins, 1984, and its sequel. Her screen presence, natural, charismatic, and emotionally grounded, helped her stand out in an era filled with emerging talent. By the late 1980s, she had firmly established herself as a leading figure among her generation. However, as her career continued, Cates began to reassess what mattered most. In 1989, she married actor Kevin Kline, and soon after, her focus gradually shifted away from acting. By the mid-1990s, she made the conscious decision to step back from Hollywood almost entirely, choosing to prioritize raising her children over maintaining a high-profile career. Unlike many actors who attempt to balance both worlds, Cates embraced a full transition into private life. Her departure was not driven by a lack of opportunity, but by a clear sense of purpose. She expressed the importance of being present for her family, valuing time and stability over the demands of the film industry. Later, she channeled her creativity into a different venture by opening a boutique in New York City called Blue Tree, which reflects her personal aesthetic and entrepreneurial spirit. Though she no longer appears on screen, her performances continue to resonate with audiences who grew up watching her films. Phoebe Cates' journey stands out because it challenges the assumption that success must be continuous and public. Instead, she chose a quieter, more grounded life, one defined by personal fulfillment rather than fame. Her story is a reminder that stepping away can be a deliberate and meaningful choice, not a retreat. Jonathan Taylor Thomas. Jonathan Taylor Thomas became one of the most recognizable young stars of the 1990s. Yet his decision to leave the spotlight at the height of his popularity reveals a rare commitment to personal growth over fame. He rose to prominence as Randy Taylor on the hit sitcom Home Improvement, 1991 to 1999, where his charm and comedic timing made him a fan favorite. At the same time, he expanded his reach through film and voice acting, most notably providing the voice of young Simba in Disney's The Lion King, 1994, a role that remains iconic to this day. By the late 1990s, Thomas had achieved a level of recognition that few teenage actors experience. However, in 1998, he made the unexpected decision to step away from Home Improvement before the series concluded. His reasoning was clear. He wanted to focus on his education and explore life beyond the confines of celebrity. This decision marked a significant turning point as he chose long-term development over immediate success. Thomas went on to attend Harvard University and later studied at Columbia University, immersing himself in academics rather than continuing a demanding acting schedule. While he did make occasional appearances in smaller projects and later explored directing, he never returned to the level of fame he once held. And that was by design. His story resonates because it reflects a conscious redefinition of success. Instead of being defined by early stardom, Thomas chose to build a more balanced and private life. In an industry where many struggle to transition beyond childhood fame, his path stands as a thoughtful alternative, one where stepping away is not an ending, but a deliberate new beginning shaped by choice and self-awareness. Amanda Bynes. Amanda Bynes' rise in Hollywood was rapid, vibrant, and full of promise. But her departure from the spotlight reveals a far more complex and human story. She first gained recognition as a child star on Nickelodeon, starring in All That and later The Amanda Show, where her comedic timing and expressive personality made her a standout talent. Transitioning into film, she achieved mainstream success with movies like She's the Man, 2006, Hairspray, 2007, and Easy A, 2010, earning praise for her versatility and screen presence. At one point, she was considered one of the most bankable young actresses of her generation. However, behind the success, personal struggles began to surface. In the early 2000s, Bynes faced a series of legal and mental health challenges that were widely publicized. In 2013, she was placed under a conservatorship, a legal arrangement typically reserved for individuals unable to manage their own affairs. This marked a significant turning point in her life, effectively pausing her acting career and shifting the focus toward recovery and stability. Unlike many celebrity narratives, Bynes' story is not about a simple choice to leave fame. It is about stepping away out of necessity and rebuilding from within. Over nearly a decade, she remained largely out of the public eye, working on her mental health and gradually regaining control of her life. In 2022, the conservatorship was officially terminated, signaling a new chapter. Since then, Bynes has explored different paths, including studying fashion and expressing interest in creative work outside traditional acting. Her journey highlights the pressures that often accompany early fame and the importance of prioritizing well-being over public expectations. Amanda Bynes' story is ultimately one of resilience, proof that stepping away from the spotlight can be the first step toward reclaiming one's identity. Angus T. Jones. Angus T. Jones became one of the most recognizable faces on television at a remarkably young age. Yet, His decision to leave fame behind was driven by conviction rather than circumstance. Best known for his role as Jake Harper on the long-running sitcom 2.5 Men, 2003 to 2015, Jones grew up on screen, earning widespread popularity and reportedly becoming one of the highest-paid child actors in television history, with earnings reaching over $300,000 per episode at his peak. Despite this success, Jones underwent a profound personal transformation during his late teenage years. Around 2012, he publicly expressed discomfort with the content of the show, describing it as conflicting with his evolving spiritual beliefs. In a widely discussed video, he urged viewers to reconsider watching the series, signaling a clear break between his personal values and his professional role. This shift led him to step away from the show and, more broadly, from the entertainment industry. Unlike typical career changes in Hollywood, Jones's decision was rooted in a desire for alignment between his work and his beliefs. He later enrolled at the University of Colorado Boulder, where he explored academic interests and embraced a more private lifestyle, far removed from the pressures of fame. In the years that followed, Jones maintained a low public profile, occasionally hinting at a possible return to entertainment, but without rushing back into the spotlight. His journey reflects a rare example of someone prioritizing personal integrity over financial success and public recognition. Angus T. Jones's story stands out because it challenges conventional expectations. At a time when he had everything the industry could offer, he chose a different path, one guided not by opportunity, but by purpose. So, what do you think? Did these stars make the right choice, or did they walk away too soon? Some found peace, purpose, and a new identity beyond fame, while others left fans wondering what could have been. Maybe true success isn't about staying in the spotlight forever, but knowing when to leave it behind. Now it's your turn. Would you trade fame for a quieter, more meaningful life? Or is walking away from success a mistake? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's start the debate. And if you enjoy deep dives like this, subscribe to American Icon Stories for more powerful, thought-provoking stories from the world of legends.